Okay, welcome everyone.
Hello.
Welcome. And today I wanted to talk about setting goals. You set yourself goals and you don't achieve them. And that's what I wanted to go through because I'm sure everyone's been in this situation. I can put my hands up and say, yes, I've been there. You've set a goal that you really, really wanted. And I'm going to give a very simple example because I've been in this situation. You wanted to lose weight, get healthier, or it could be going for a promotion to earn more money, or it could be find a loving relationship or starting a business. And thing is, when you set that goal, you genuinely mean it, right? You thought it this time, I'm going to do it, I'm going to achieve it. You start like with lots and lots of motivation. Maybe you've bought that healthy food, you've joined the gym, you've bought a new pair of trainers, you've even created a vision board, you've written down affirmations, and then a few weeks later, it stops, it fizzles out. And that's when the inner dialogue starts. Why can't I stay consistent? Why do I always do this? Why do I not have the willpower? Why can't I just stick to something? And what if the problem isn't the goal? What if the problem isn't that you're lazy or you're lacking motivation? What if you've set the goal, but you're trying to achieve it with the same thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and actions that created your current reality? And I did a workshop on this yesterday. I call this TEBA, thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and actions. Today, I'm going to show you how you can use your TEBA to understand why you might be struggling to achieve your goals. And more importantly, how you can begin getting yourself back into alignment with them. So before we start, I'm going to quickly share my screen. And I want to tell you about this 4-day series. Over 4 short videos, I'll help you understand your subconscious programming, how your thoughts and emotions, how they influence the reality that you're creating, how to start healing those emotional patterns that are keeping you stuck, and how to create a vision for your life that you actually want. So if you're ready to go a little bit deeper into this work, you'll find the link to join in my free Heal and Manifest series video. I'll stick them in the comments below so you can get right into this work. You can go deeper into it. But for now, let's go back into TEBA. So let me just stop sharing my screen. Okay. So let's start. Your goal is only one part of the equation, right? So you've set yourself a goal. For example, I want to lose weight, I want to feel healthier, and you know what you want. Maybe you've decided that you're going to eat better, you're going to exercise more, you're going to look after yourself this time. And Monday morning comes along, you're motivated, you buy the food, you go to the gym, you tell yourself, this time I'm going to stick to it. But then a few weeks later, you stop. Okay. And then you start blaming yourself. So you start saying things like, I can't stay consistent. I don't have the willpower. Why do I always do this? But then instead of judging yourself, let's look at what's actually happening through your TEBA. Because your goal might be saying, I want to lose weight, I want to become healthier. But then your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, and actions, what are they saying? So let's look at thoughts first. And if you want to get a notebook and pen and paper to help you along, otherwise, just listen to me and you can watch this on replay. So let's start with your thoughts. What are you actually thinking about throughout the day? Not what you wrote in the journal in the morning, not your affirmation stuck to your mirror. I'm talking about your internal conversation. Because sometimes you don't know what you're talking to yourself on the inside. Maybe you look in the mirror and you think, I hate the way I look. I've tried this so many times. I can never stick to anything. And or you might be saying things like losing weight is so difficult for me. I've got no willpower. What's the point? I probably put it back on anyway. And I just want you to look at what's happening. Your conscious goal is saying to yourself, I want to be healthier. But your repeated thoughts are saying, I don't believe I can do this. And this is where that misalignment happens. Those thoughts, they don't just disappear. They begin creating that emotional response. So let's go to the emotional side. So your internal dialogue could be repeating to yourself, I hate my body. I failed again. I've got no willpower. How are you going to feel? Right? The feeling underneath is going to probably be something like frustration, disappointment, guilt, maybe shame, maybe a bit of hopelessness. And then imagine you've had a difficult day because life happens and you're going to work, you're stressed, you're tired, something hasn't gone your way. And perhaps food has always been something that you've used for comfort. I know I've done it. You're not simply dealing with hunger, you're dealing with an emotional pattern. And that's the important bit. So alignment doesn't mean that you're supposed to feel happy and positive every minute of the day, because you can't. We're humans, right? You're going to have those difficult emotions. You're going to have those bad days. The question is, what emotional state am I in? Am I repeatedly operating from? And what do I tend to do when I feel that way? Does that make sense? What emotional state am I repeating? And what do I tend to do when I feel that way? And then we go underneath the emotion, because there's always a belief sitting there, right? What is a belief? First of all, a belief is when you repeat a thought so many times, right? So what would you have had to believe for these thoughts and emotions to make sense? So we're looking underneath again. Okay, maybe underneath the fact that I can never stick to a diet is a belief that I'm not a disciplined person. Underneath it could be, I always put my weight back on. This process doesn't last for me. Or it could be, I've always been this way, because that's all how you've grown up. And here's something I really want you to remember. Your goal tells me what you consciously want, right? Your beliefs can reveal what you subconsciously expect. So you're conscious and you want to change, but your subconscious is saying, I can't do it. And you're still expecting the old pattern. And this is where we get to the final bit of actions. Now, look at what happens to your actions, right? We've gone through your thoughts, we've gone through emotions, we've gone through beliefs, and now we're at actions. You plan to exercise, but then you put it off. You decide you're going to prepare healthier meals, and then you get stressed, you go back to foods that you've been used to for comfort. Then you have one day where you don't follow your plan and immediately think, I've ruined it now. I'll start again Monday. And then Monday comes, then another Monday comes, and then eventually you stop altogether. And then that becomes proof. See, I told you you couldn't stick to it. And then that story comes in. And now what have you done? You've created the evidence for the original belief. So can you see you're stuck in that loop, that cycle? Your thoughts, they end up affecting your emotions. Your emotions reveal or reinforce your beliefs. And those thoughts, emotions, beliefs, they influence your actions. Right? So, how do we align this TEBA? I'm going to take the same goal for just ease. Your thought is, I want to lose weight. I want to become healthy. This time, instead of focusing on the number on the scales, we're going to start aligning your TEBA with the person that you're becoming. So let's start with the thought. Instead of saying, I've tried everything, nothing works, maybe you can say, I can learn to take better care of my body, one choice at a time. So that's your new thought. Notice I'm not asking you to lie to yourself, okay? Because that's not the intention. I'm not asking you to suddenly declare, I absolutely love exercise and I love eating broccoli, because that's not going to happen. And you don't. You're simply creating a thought that moves you in the direction that you want to move to. Okay? Simple. I can make the next choice that supports me. And how might that make you feel? A little bit more thoughtful, hopeful, capable, maybe a little bit less overwhelmed. Then we look at the belief. Instead of I have no discipline, how about I'm becoming someone who looks after my body? And again, look what happens to your actions. Because you're becoming that person, you're beginning to drink more water, you go for a walk, you think about your meals, you think about what movement you're going to get in the day. Just it doesn't have to be about going to the gym initially. It could just be, I'm going to do this amount of steps. And then you can slowly build those habits. And if you have a day where you don't do what you intended, what you set out to do, we all have that. Instead of saying, I've ruined something, say, it's okay. What's the next action I can take? Don't go into that sabotage mode. And then that's where you can start aligning yourself with your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, and actions. And because everything is aligning and everything you're telling yourself, don't worry, I can't do it yet. What's the next bit that I can do? You're not going back into that pattern. Okay. So I wanted to bring that into your awareness so that you can start using this. So here is what I want to do after this video, right? Choose one goal. Just one. Don't stick to like 10, 20 goals. Practice with one goal. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's going for a promotion. Maybe it's earning more money. Maybe it's growing a business. Maybe it's creating a better relationship. I want you to write that goal on the top of the paper. And then under it, write thoughts. What am I repeatedly thinking about achieving this goal? And I want you to write down your real thoughts, not the ones that you think you should be having, but the ones that you are actually having. Okay. Then the next bit is emotions. What do I repeatedly feel when I think about this goal? So what are those emotions that you're currently feeling? Fear, excitement, doubt, hope, overwhelm, frustration. And then let's move to beliefs. What would I have to believe for those thoughts and emotions to make sense? And this is where you might uncover something that you hadn't noticed before. And then the last one, we go down to actions. What am I actually doing? And perhaps even more importantly, what am I avoiding? then look at everything you've written and ask yourself just one question. Is my TEBA aligned with the reality that I say that I want? Because your goal tells you where you want to go. Your TBA shows you why you're not getting there. Okay. So we've come to the end of this video. And before I go, I just want to say thank you so much. And if you've been listening to this and you've been thinking, I know what I want, I can see the life that I want, but there's still something between where I am and where I want to be, then I'd love you to watch my free webinar, The Missing Piece Between Where You Are and the Life That You Want, because sometimes the problem isn't that you don't have the goals. It isn't that you're not trying, and it isn't necessarily that you need another strategy. There might simply be a gap between the life that you consciously want and the patterns that are unconsciously holding you back. And in this webinar, I go through and explore what the missing piece is. I help you understand what's sitting in that gap and how you can begin moving from where you are now towards where the life that you want to create. And I'm going to put the link in the description so you can go and watch that there. And then before you go, I'd love you to answer this one question in the comments for me. Which part of your TEBA is most out of alignment with your goal right now? Is it your thoughts? Is it your emotions? Is it your beliefs? Is it your actions? Put in TEBA in the comments. And if you want, tell me what goal you're working towards. And if this video helped you, subscribe to the channel, because we're going to be taking much more about subconscious programming. We're going to be exploring it further about emotional healing, alignment, manifestation. So until the next video, much love and namaste. Thank you.